Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something that's equal parts fascinating and a little mind-blowing. The story of Charles Lewis Tiffany. I know what you're thinking, Tiffany Company, right? Sure, we all know Tiffany for its dazzling diamonds, luxurious jewelry, and that iconic blue box. But let me tell you, Charles Lewis Tiffany wasn't just some guy who happened to get lucky with a jewelry store. His story is packed with ambition, struggle, and the kind of drive that built a legacy still standing strong over 180 years later. The thing is, Charles didn't start out as some rich kid destined for greatness. Nope, he was born in a small, quiet town in Nantucket, Massachusetts in 1812. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. How does a kid from a small fishing town end up founding one of the world's most iconic luxury brands? Well, sit back and relax, because we're about to take a journey through Charles's early life, and trust me, it's a whole lot more interesting than you'd expect. Before we jump in, make sure to hit that like button if you're into inspirational stories of self-made success. And don't forget to subscribe, especially if you want to hear more stories about how incredible brands like Tiffany and Company came to be. Also, drop a comment below and let me know, did you always know Tiffany was founded by a guy from Nantucket, or is that a bit of a plot twist for you? And hey, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is right now. We love hearing from you night owls. All right, time to dim the lights, get cozy, and let's head back to the early 19th century when Charles Tiffany was just a young man with big dreams and a whole lot of ambition to make them happen. Chapter 1. Charles Lewis Tiffany, the making of a visionary. Tiffany was born on February 14th, 1812 in Nantucket, a small island off the coast of Massachusetts. Now, Nantucket in the early 19th century was a quiet place, known for its whaling industry and its role as a modest New England community. Charles wasn't born into wealth or luxury, but rather into a family of merchants. His father, William Tiffany, was a merchant who dealt in a variety of goods, and his mother, Mehetable Burnett, was a quiet, hard-working woman from a family of farmers. Although his family wasn't particularly wealthy, Charles had the privilege of being raised in an environment where work ethic and self-reliance were highly valued. His father's business exposed him to the world of trade and commerce at an early age. Charles would accompany his father on trips, learning the ropes of selling goods and understanding the intricacies of running a business. It was here that Charles first began to dream about his own future, one where he would rise above the small-town life and create something that would leave a lasting mark. At the age of 15, Charles left Nantucket and moved to New York City to attend school. Now, New York in the early 19th century was nothing like Nantucket. The city was a bustling hub of commerce and trade, and it had a certain energy that must have been thrilling for someone like Charles. For the first time, he was exposed to the fast-paced world of business in a way he couldn't have imagined back in his small hometown. But Charles wasn't just there to attend school. He was there to learn. While at school, he also worked in various shops, gaining hands-on experience in retail. He didn't attend a prestigious university or business school. Instead, he immersed himself in the world of business through practical experience. This early exposure to the business world taught him important lessons in retail, customer service, and how to spot opportunities. It wasn't long before Charles realized that his ambitions extended beyond selling basic goods. He wanted to create something that stood for quality and luxury, something that would represent American craftsmanship on the global stage. This wasn't just about making money. It was about building a brand that was synonymous with excellence. Charles dreamed of creating a business that not only sold products, but also built a reputation for outstanding craftsmanship. In the early 1830s, Charles made a pivotal decision. At the age of 25, he left the comfort of New York shops and founded Tiffany & Young in 1837. The store initially focused on selling stationery and fancy goods, but from the start, Charles knew that this was just the beginning. He wasn't in it for a quick buck. He wanted to build a business that would last for generations. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy, and Charles had his work cut out for him. Tiffany & Young was a small store with limited capital, and New York in the 1830s was a competitive market. But Charles wasn't discouraged. If anything, the competition only fueled his desire to prove himself. He knew that the key to success wasn't just selling basic goods, it was about offering exceptional quality. As Tiffany & Young grew, Charles began to focus on luxury, something that would set him apart from his competitors. Instead of selling everyday items, he aimed to create a store that offered refined, high-quality products. His commitment to quality became the foundation of what would later become the Tiffany and Company we know today. Tiffany's story didn't start with a grand inheritance or connections to the rich and famous. Instead, it began with a vision and a deep understanding of the value of hard work. From a small, quiet island in Nantucket to the bustling streets of New York City, Charles Tiffany's journey was just beginning. And in the next chapter, we'll dive into how Charles turned Tiffany & Young into something that would forever change the way Americans viewed luxury and craftsmanship. Chapter 2. Founding Tiffany & Company, 1837. All right, let's get into it. Charles Lewis Tiffany, now in New York, was officially ready to take on the world and show that even a small-town guy from Nantucket could build a luxury empire. He wasn't just going to open a store and sell whatever the average Joe was buying. Oh no, Charles had big dreams. This wasn't going to be just any store. This was going to be a luxury brand before luxury brand even meant anything. Imagine that. Charles was ahead of his time and the world was about to find out. So, in 1837, at the ripe age of 25, Charles took a huge leap and opened his very first store, Tiffany & Young. And yes, you heard that right, Tiffany & Young. You know, before he realized that Young probably wasn't the most long-lasting partnership name, so he dropped it and went with Tiffany & Company later on. But that's a story for another time. Anyway, Charles was ready to make his mark, but let's be honest, he didn't exactly start with a golden spoon. He wasn't like those silver-spooned entrepreneurs we see today, with venture capital backing up their every move. Nope, Charles had a vision, a little bit of ambition, and a whole lot of grit. Now let's talk about the environment Charles was working in. New York City in the 1830s was a buzzing, fast-moving place. It was starting to grow into the vibrant, bustling metropolis we know today, but it wasn't all glamorous back then. Imagine the competition. It was like every other shop owner in New York was trying to sell something and shouting, "Look at me, I've got the best deal." It was a crowded marketplace, and Charles wasn't the only one trying to make a name for himself. Everyone was hungry for success, just like Charles. But Charles wasn't worried. He had a vision, remember? He wasn't going to get bogged down in selling just any old thing. He didn't want to be the guy who sold stationery and fancy goods, the stuff that everyone was already selling. He didn't want to be just another shop on Broadway. No, he wanted luxury, he wanted craftsmanship, and above all, he wanted American quality to stand on its own next to European craftsmanship, which had been ruling the high-end world for centuries. So here's the big idea. He opened up shop in the luxury goods market. While most stores were focused on basic items, Charles realized something that would prove to be pivotal. Americans didn't just want to buy stuff. They wanted exclusive stuff. The problem, of course, was that New York didn't exactly have a luxury market like Paris or London. Those cities had been doing this whole fine goods thing for centuries. So Charles took it upon himself to create that market. He wasn't going to sit around waiting for a wealthy clientele to come flocking to him. He was going to create that clientele. Genius, right? And sure, in the beginning it wasn't a fairy tale. There were struggles. Charles had to work hard to gain traction. He was working with limited capital and facing stiff competition from all sides. Tiffany & Young was a small shop, and it took some time to get recognized. But that's the thing about visionaries. They see what others don't, and Charles Tiffany knew that if he just kept doing what he was doing, luxury would follow. But here's where things get interesting. Charles didn't sit around twiddling his thumbs. No, he was a man of action. In 1845, just 8 years after opening Tiffany & Young, he launched America's first mail-order catalogue, called the Tiffany Blue Book. This was a game-changer. You see, back then, the idea of shopping from a catalogue was almost alien. It wasn't really a thing. If you wanted luxury goods, you had to get dressed up, go to a store, and hope they had what you wanted. But Tiffany wasn't about that. Charles wanted to reach everyone across the country, not just people who lived in New York. So he created a way for people to buy high-end goods from their homes, without stepping into a store. Think about it. This was revolutionary. The Tiffany Blue Book wasn't just a catalogue with boring listings of products. No. It was a luxury experience in a book. It was all about aspirational buying. People didn't just look at the book and think, "Oh, I could buy some nice silverware." No, they thought, if I buy from Tiffany, I'm part of something exclusive. I'm part of something elite. And just like that, Tiffany and Company wasn't just a New York-based brand, it was America's luxury brand, and it was quickly growing. Charles had turned luxury retail into a nationwide experience, and the Blue Book opened the door to customers from all over the country who wanted to buy into the Tiffany experience. Suddenly, New York wasn't the only place to get the finest goods. Now people across America had the chance to own pieces from Tiffany and Company, all delivered straight to their doorstep. Now, let's not forget that Charles wasn't just an innovator when it came to marketing. He was also an innovator in the products he sold. Tiffany wasn't just about selling high-end everyday items. He was creating one-of-a-kind superior goods that set the standard for quality. In the 1850s, Tiffany's sterling silver began earning a reputation, and it was at the 1851 Great Exhibition in London where Tiffany's silver was first recognized internationally. Tiffany's craftsmanship was now known not just in New York, but across the world. That was a big deal. American-made silver was now in the same conversation as the best European silversmiths. Charles Tiffany was showing the world that America could produce products just as luxurious as anything Europe had to offer. He wasn't just a local businessman anymore, he was an international figure, and his brand was starting to mean something. And as the business continued to grow, so did the challenges. More and more competitors popped up trying to replicate Tiffany's success. But Charles wasn't worried. He was focused on quality and innovation. He wasn't trying to compete with everyone else, he was trying to lead. And he did. His commitment to quality and creating luxury goods was the backbone of Tiffany & Co.'s growth. By the late 1850s, Tiffany was beginning to be recognized not just as a store, but as a symbol of American luxury. Chapter 3. The Birth of the Tiffany Blue Book, 1845. Now that Charles Lewis Tiffany had successfully opened his first store in New York, he was facing the realities of building a luxury brand in an increasingly competitive market. He wasn't about to let the hustle and bustle of New York City, nor the fierce competition, slow him down. So what did he do? He decided to take a bold, innovative step to reach customers far beyond his New York storefront. Enter the Tiffany Blue Book, and this move was nothing short of revolutionary. Before we get into the how and why, let me set the stage. New York in the 1840s was already a bustling center of commerce, but not exactly the place for a growing luxury brand to easily thrive. People needed to see Tiffany's goods, touch them, and ideally have a few cocktails in the shop while they were at it. But here's the thing. Luxury wasn't accessible to the masses. You had to be someone special to walk into the finest stores, and a lot of Americans simply didn't have the time or resources to make that journey. Enter Charles Tiffany, the businessman who saw an opportunity in the distance. Instead of waiting for customers to stroll into his store, Tiffany decided to take the store to them. In 1845, just 8 years after founding Tiffany & Young, he launched the Tiffany Blue Book, America's first luxury catalog. Yes, you heard that right. This was the first time ever that someone said, "Hey, let's bring luxury right into people's homes." This wasn't some pamphlet with boring lists of goods. Oh no. The Blue Book was a carefully crafted piece of marketing genius. The Tiffany Blue Book wasn't just a catalogue, it was an experience, a gateway into the world of luxury that Charles Tiffany was creating. It was luxury retail in a book. Instead of going to a store, customers could now browse the finest selection of goods in the comfort of their own home. And let me tell you, it wasn't just about buying silverware or fine china, it was about aspiration. Tiffany wasn't just selling stuff, he was selling a lifestyle, one that the American elite could aspire to. The catalogue featured Tiffany's sterling silver, custom-designed jewelry, and a curated selection of exclusive goods. And while it might seem like a small step today, back then this was game-changing. The idea that luxury could be purchased without a trip to the store, that was unheard of. It was the first time ever that high-end, high-quality goods were being marketed to a national audience, and it completely shifted the way people thought about luxury shopping. No longer did people need to travel to Paris or London to get the finest items. Tiffany was bringing that luxury to America, and it was going straight to their doorstep. Now, you're probably wondering, how did it work? Well, the Blue Book wasn't just an ordinary catalogue. Charles Tiffany carefully crafted it to reflect the prestige and sophistication that Tiffany & Company stood for. The book was beautifully designed, full of high-quality images and detailed descriptions of Tiffany's finest offerings. But it was more than just a catalogue, it was an invitation to be part of an exclusive world. You couldn't just buy a Tiffany item off the shelf. Well, not yet. You had to have access to this luxury experience, and the Blue Book was the key. This move paid off. Tiffany and Company began to grow its clientele well beyond New York. People from all over the United States were now exposed to Tiffany's offerings and began to buy his goods sight unseen. And this wasn't just your average middle-class consumer, it was the elite, the wealthy, the ones who saw Tiffany and Company as the symbol of prestige and refinement. Tiffany wasn't just selling silver or jewelry, he was selling an idea, American luxury. And here's another twist in the story. As the Blue Book became more popular, international attention grew. Tiffany wasn't just catering to American high society, his brand was becoming synonymous with global luxury. As people in Europe saw the Tiffany Blue Book, they began to recognize the American brand that was offering a new kind of sophistication. Tiffany and Company wasn't just a store in New York anymore, it was becoming a global name. And Charles had used the Blue Book as the doorway to international recognition. The beauty of the Blue Book wasn't just in its inclusivity, but also in its exclusivity. Even though the catalogue was available across the US, receiving it was like being invited to a private club. It gave the consumer a taste of Tiffany's finest pieces while also positioning the store as a prestigious, exclusive destination for high-end luxury. This wasn't your average catalogue from a department store, this was an experience. You weren't just buying an object, you were investing in a piece of history, a piece of luxury that few others could claim. This move was a defining moment in Tiffany & Co.'s early success, and it set the tone for the brand's future. The Tiffany Blue Book wasn't just about selling goods, it was about creating a luxury brand identity that would transcend generations. It was a precursor to what we now recognize as luxury marketing, creating a brand experience that made customers feel like they were part of something rare, something special, something that couldn't be found just anywhere. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Charles wasn't done yet. With the success of the Tiffany Blue Book, Tiffany and Company was officially on the map, and it was about to enter a new chapter of global growth. The 1850s were on the horizon, and Charles was just getting started. There were many more innovations and achievements to come, including major recognition from the world stage, literally. So buckle up, because in the next chapter we'll see how Tiffany and Company used the 1851 Great Exhibition in London to solidify its place as a global leader in luxury, and how Tiffany's commitment to quality and craftsmanship became its calling card for success. Let me know in the comments, did you ever think a catalogue could change the game for luxury retail? And as always, where are you tuning in from and what time is it? We're all ears. Chapter 4. Recognition and Growth, 1850s. Now that Charles Lewis Tiffany had transformed Tiffany & Young into a household name thanks to his innovative Tiffany Blue Book, the next step was ensuring that his company wasn't just a passing trend, but a global luxury icon. The 1850s were a time of huge growth for Tiffany & Company, and Charles was on a roll, pushing boundaries, attracting attention, and slowly but surely cementing his legacy as one of the most influential figures in American retail. At this point, Tiffany & Company was still making its mark, but Charles wasn't satisfied with merely selling luxury goods in New York. He had much bigger plans. The world was taking notice of Tiffany's impeccable craftsmanship, and Charles was ready to take that recognition and turn it into something bigger. In 1851, Tiffany & Company received its first major international recognition at the Great Exhibition in London. Now, the Great Exhibition was pretty much the Super Bowl of global trade shows. It was held at the Crystal Palace in Hyde Park, London, and it was an event that attracted the best of the best in art, design and innovation from all over the world. It was the place to showcase exceptional craftsmanship. And guess who was there? Yep, Tiffany & Company. Now let's take a moment to appreciate how big this was. Tiffany's silver was showcased at the Great Exhibition alongside the finest European designs. And guess what? Tiffany won an award. Not just any award, mind you. Tiffany's sterling silver earned global recognition. This was huge. It wasn't just a pat on the back. This was Charles Tiffany and his brand being recognized on the world stage. The recognition helped establish Tiffany & Company as a legitimate competitor to the established European jewelers who had long dominated the luxury market. This was the first big breakthrough in Tiffany & Co.'s expansion, and it was a clear signal to the world that American craftsmanship could stand on equal footing with the best European artisans. Tiffany's silverware, jewelry and home goods were of a quality that had never been seen before in America. Tiffany's meticulous attention to detail and commitment to using the best materials had set him apart from his competitors. Now the world was finally taking notice, but Charles wasn't done yet. The 1850s weren't just about recognition for Tiffany and Company, they were about growth. As the decade progressed, Tiffany began to expand his offerings beyond stationery and fine silverware. He turned his attention to fine jewelry, and this shift was crucial in transforming Tiffany and Company into a luxury brand that was known for more than just silver. It was during this time that Tiffany and Company started to build its reputation for exceptional diamonds and intricate designs that appealed to the tastes of the elite. And Charles wasn't just following trends, he was setting them. His approach to designing jewelry was innovative, and it stood out from what other jewelers were offering at the time. Tiffany didn't just focus on quantity, he focused on quality, and it was this commitment to superior craftsmanship that earned him the loyalty of wealthy American families, including the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, and other prominent names. But let's be real, Charles wasn't just in it for the praise. Recognition was great, but it was also time to start securing the future of Tiffany and Company. Charles knew that in order to thrive in the luxury market, he needed to stay ahead of the curve. So what did he do? He started acquiring rare gems and building connections with gem dealers across the world. This would eventually lead to Tiffany and Company becoming known for some of the most stunning gemstones on the market. Tiffany wasn't just selling diamonds, he was selling masterpieces. While the company was expanding its inventory, it was also becoming more exclusive. Tiffany and Company was no longer just a store for wealthy New Yorkers. It was becoming a global symbol of wealth and sophistication. The brand's growing presence on the world stage was helping it secure its place at the top of the luxury retail market. But Charles wasn't just about the bling, he also paid close attention to his customer service. Personalized service was just as important as the products themselves, and this level of care became a hallmark of the Tiffany experience. Tiffany and Company was more than just a store. It was a destination, a place where wealthy individuals could go to get exactly what they wanted, crafted just for them. By the time the 1850s came to a close, Tiffany and Company was no longer just a luxury brand. It was an American institution. The company was known for its exceptional silverware, intricate jewelry designs, and most importantly, its commitment to quality. The recognition Tiffany and Company had earned at the Great Exhibition in London gave the company the boost it needed to expand its clientele and reputation, not just in America, but around the world. And just when you thought things couldn't get any better, Tiffany was about to hit another major milestone. In the next chapter, we'll dive into how the brand's acquisition of the Tiffany Yellow Diamond and some of its signature jewelry pieces completely redefined Tiffany's position in the luxury world. From being known for silverware to having some of the world's most iconic diamonds in its portfolio, Tiffany & Company was about to take its legacy to a whole new level. Let me know in the comments, did you know Tiffany's silver was showcased at the Great Exhibition in London? Or was that a fun surprise for you? And as always, where are you tuning in from and what time is it? Love hearing from all of you night owls. Chapter 5, Tiffany Yellow Diamond and Signature Pieces, 1870s. Now that we've seen how Tiffany & Company had risen to prominence and begun its journey as a global luxury brand, let's talk about one of the most iconic moments in the company's history. Charles Lewis Tiffany wasn't just content with recognition and success. He was always looking to push the boundaries of what Tiffany & Company could represent. And in the 1870s, he did just that with a move that would define the brand's legacy for generations to come, the acquisition of the Tiffany Yellow Diamond. If you've ever seen a picture of the Tiffany Yellow Diamond, you know what I mean when I say it's one of the most breathtaking diamonds in the world. But, believe it or not, it wasn't always the glittering centerpiece of Tiffany & Company that it is today. No, Charles didn't just stumble upon this beauty. It was a calculated move that would cement Tiffany's place as a global leader in diamonds. Here's how it went down. In 1870, a massive yellow diamond was discovered in the Kimberley mine in South Africa. The diamond, weighing an impressive 287.42 carats, was unlike anything that had been seen before. Tiffany, who was known for his impeccable eye for fine gems, saw the opportunity to acquire it. But Charles wasn't just thinking about the beauty of the stone. He was thinking about what this diamond would represent for Tiffany and Company. The Tiffany Yellow Diamond was cut to a 128.54 carat cushion shape and was one of the largest yellow diamonds in the world. The acquisition of such an extraordinary gemstone wasn't just about having a rare piece of jewelry in the store, it was about building a legacy. The Tiffany Yellow Diamond wasn't just a gem, it was a symbol. It symbolized luxury, exclusivity, and American craftsmanship, and by acquiring it, Tiffany and Company solidified its reputation as one of the world's leading jewelers. But here's the twist, this was no ordinary diamond. The Tiffany Yellow Diamond had an almost magical quality. It wasn't just beautiful, it had an energy, a presence that made it stand out among all other diamonds, and Tiffany wasn't about to let this diamond gather dust in a vault. No, this diamond was meant to shine, and shine it did. In 1878, Tiffany unveiled the Tiffany Yellow Diamond to the world, and the reactions were nothing short of awestruck. The unveiling of the Tiffany Yellow Diamond wasn't just a grand event, it was a game-changer. It marked the beginning of Tiffany & Co.'s deep association with exceptional diamonds. This diamond became the defining piece of the brand's legacy. Tiffany wasn't just known for silver anymore. This diamond represented a new chapter in the company's history, one where it was recognized as a global leader in diamonds. But the Tiffany Yellow Diamond wasn't the only signature piece that would become synonymous with the brand. Tiffany and Company began to create some of the most iconic jewelry the world had ever seen, including pieces that were custom designed for royalty and the American elite. The brand's focus on superior craftsmanship and distinctive design became its hallmark. The introduction of the Tiffany Yellow Diamond was just one of many steps that cemented Tiffany & Company as the gold standard for fine jewelry. And while the Tiffany Yellow Diamond became the centerpiece of the brand's diamond collection, Tiffany's commitment to design innovation didn't stop there. The company continued to create groundbreaking designs that would be recognized for their beauty and originality. Tiffany's designs were bold, yet elegant, combining luxury with timeless style. Now, let's not forget that Tiffany & Company wasn't just creating beautiful jewelry, it was creating pieces that told stories. In the 1870s, Charles Tiffany introduced custom-made engagement rings that became incredibly popular among the American elite. These weren't just rings, they were symbols of love, status, and commitment. Tiffany & Co.'s engagement rings became the ultimate symbol of romance, and they set a new standard for what an engagement ring should be. The Tiffany setting, introduced in 1886, would go on to become the world's most famous engagement ring design. As Tiffany's diamond collection grew, so did the company's international reputation. Tiffany & Company was no longer just a luxury brand in America, it was a global symbol of sophistication. The acquisition of the Tiffany Yellow Diamond helped elevate the brand to new heights and establish Tiffany & Company as the go-to jeweler for anyone looking for the finest gemstones and jewelry designs. Charles Tiffany's pursuit of exceptional gems and innovative designs helped define the brand's legacy. By the time the 1870s came to a close, Tiffany & Company was at the pinnacle of the jewelry world. The Tiffany Yellow Diamond was now the crown jewel of the company's collection, and Tiffany & Company was synonymous with luxury and unmatched craftsmanship. In this chapter, we explored how Tiffany & Company transformed from a fine silver retailer into a global leader in the diamond world with the acquisition of the Tiffany Yellow Diamond. This iconic piece marked a new era for the company, positioning Tiffany as not just a jewelry brand, but as the epitome of luxury and American craftsmanship. But this was just the beginning. In the next chapter, we'll dive into one of Tiffany's most groundbreaking innovations, the Tiffany setting, and how it revolutionized the world of engagement rings forever. Let me know in the comments, what's the most jaw-dropping fact you learned about the Tiffany Yellow Diamond? Or maybe you're still trying to wrap your head around the sheer size of it. And as always, where are you tuning in from and what time is it? We love hearing from you all. Chapter 6, the Tiffany setting, the engagement ring, Revolution, 1886. All right, we've reached one of the most iconic moments in the history of Tiffany & Co. A game-changing moment that completely transformed the way the world looked at engagement rings. You know it, I know it, and anyone who's ever seen a classic engagement ring knows it, the Tiffany setting. But let's back up for a second. This wasn't just any design. No, the Tiffany setting was revolutionary. Before 1886, engagement rings were, let's face it, pretty basic. Sure, there were diamonds and there were rings, but they were usually set in a traditional way with little thought to showcasing the stone in its full glory. They weren't spectacular, they were just, well, rings. Enter Charles Lewis Tiffany, the man who said, "Why settle for just a ring when we can create something extraordinary?" In 1886, Charles unveiled what would become one of the most iconic ring designs in history, the Tiffany setting. But what made this design so special? Well, Tiffany didn't just put the diamond in a setting and call it a day. Oh no, he created a design where the diamond is lifted above the band, allowing more light to enter the stone, which made the diamond sparkle in ways that had never been seen before. It wasn't just a setting, it was a design that made the diamond the star. No distractions, no obstructions, just pure unfiltered brilliance. Now you might be thinking, it's just a ring, what's the big deal? And here's the thing. Before the Tiffany setting, most engagement rings simply had diamonds that were set into the band with prongs, which were practical but didn't highlight the diamond's true potential. The Tiffany setting changed that. By elevating the diamond above the band, the design allowed the stone to catch the light from every angle, showcasing the diamond's brilliance like never before. The stone wasn't just another piece of jewelry, it was the centerpiece, drawing everyone's attention. It made diamonds look even more spectacular, and that's not something you see every day. And let's talk about the impact. The Tiffany setting wasn't just an aesthetic choice, it was revolutionary in how it changed the entire jewelry industry. Prior to this, diamonds were often set in more conservative, less flattering designs, which meant that the true beauty of the stone was sometimes hidden. Tiffany didn't just want to sell rings, he wanted to celebrate the diamond itself. The Tiffany setting allowed diamonds to shine in a way that no other setting had, setting a new standard for engagement rings across the globe. When Tiffany unveiled the Tiffany setting in 1886, it didn't just make waves, it created a trend that would last for centuries. Suddenly, everyone wanted the kind of ring that made a statement not just about wealth, but about taste and style. Charles Tiffany had created a design revolution in the world of engagement rings, one that would go on to be the most coveted style in jewelry history. But this wasn't just a shift in the market, it was a cultural shift. The Tiffany setting became the gold standard for engagement rings. If you wanted to get someone to say yes to spending forever with you, you'd put a diamond in a Tiffany setting. Simple, elegant, and timeless. It made an impact that still resonates today, but wait, there's more. The Tiffany setting wasn't just a stunning design, it was also a symbol. Suddenly, engagement rings weren't just about a stone. They were about the craftsmanship that went into the design. The Tiffany setting was proof that you didn't have to be from Europe to create a masterpiece. Charles Tiffany's approach to American-made luxury was truly ahead of its time. Tiffany & Company wasn't just about selling jewelry, it was about creating jewelry that told a story. And the story of the Tiffany setting was one of innovation, refinement, and exclusivity. The Tiffany setting's impact didn't just last a few years. Oh no, it was timeless. In fact, it became so iconic that it's still the go-to engagement ring design today. If you've ever seen someone sporting a classic Tiffany engagement ring, you know what I'm talking about. It's elegant, it's timeless, and it's unmistakably Tiffany. The Tiffany setting defined the way we think about engagement rings, diamonds, and luxury itself. Now let's talk about the cultural ripple effect. The impact of the Tiffany setting wasn't just felt among the wealthy elite. The Tiffany setting made diamonds more desirable to everyone. Suddenly, diamonds weren't just for the rich and famous, they were for the people who wanted something extraordinary in their lives. Engagement rings with the Tiffany setting became the ultimate symbol of love. Not just a promise, but a celebration of that love. The Tiffany setting had a way of elevating the entire idea of engagement, making the ring not just a gift, but a legacy, a timeless symbol of a lifelong commitment. And what did this do for Tiffany & Company? It solidified Tiffany's position as the premier jeweler of its time. The brand's legacy was forever linked to the engagement ring industry. The Tiffany setting wasn't just a part of the company's history, it defined it. The design gave Tiffany & Company a unique identity in the jewelry world, making it synonymous with luxury, elegance, and quality. Charles Tiffany's foresight in creating this revolutionary design didn't just change the jewelry market, It created a global standard for engagement rings. And let's be honest, how many brands can say they've created an iconic design that has endured centuries? The Tiffany setting still reigns as the gold standard for engagement rings. It's so much more than just a piece of jewelry. It's a symbol of love, a symbol of luxury, and a symbol of excellence. Charles Tiffany didn't just change the engagement ring industry, he changed the way the world thought about love, diamonds, and what it means to commit to forever. Chapter 7. International Expansion and Recognition, late 19th century. Now that Tiffany & Company had established itself as a leader in luxury jewelry and engagement rings, it was time for Charles Tiffany to take his business to the next level. Up until now, Tiffany's reach had been primarily limited to New York and the United States, but Charles had much bigger dreams. He wanted Tiffany & Company to be recognized not just as the top American jeweler, but as a global luxury brand. In the late 19th century, luxury wasn't confined to the borders of America. Europe had long been the epicenter of fine craftsmanship, particularly in jewelry. But Charles wasn't intimidated by Europe's long-standing dominance in the industry. No, he saw an opportunity. He knew that American craftsmanship could stand toe-to-toe with the finest European designs. But in order to prove this, he needed to expand Tiffany & Company beyond the United States and into the heart of Europe's luxury market. So what did Charles do? He did what he always did. He took bold, calculated risks. In 1850, he opened Tiffany's first international store in Paris, the fashion capital of the world. Now, opening a store in Paris was a huge deal. Paris wasn't just any city, it was the home of the finest jewelers, the aristocrats, and the elite. Charles was stepping into the lion's den. But here's the thing, he wasn't scared. He knew his products were exceptional, and he believed that people in Europe would appreciate what Tiffany & Company had to offer. The move was strategic. Paris was the heart of European luxury, and by establishing a presence there, Tiffany & Company could solidify its reputation as a global player. Charles wasn't just selling jewelry in Paris, he was challenging the European aristocracy to recognize American-made luxury as just as worthy of their attention as European designs. And guess what? It worked. The store in Paris didn't just attract local customers, it helped establish Tiffany & Company as a global name. The rich and powerful flocked to Tiffany's Paris store, eager to own jewelry that represented American ingenuity and excellence. The move into Europe was more than just a business expansion. It was about changing the narrative. Tiffany & Company was no longer just an American brand. It was now a global symbol of luxury, craftsmanship, and prestige. But Charles wasn't content with just one European store. Oh no. Tiffany & Company wasn't just about making its mark in Paris, it was about becoming a global luxury powerhouse. By the late 19th century, Tiffany had expanded beyond Paris, opening stores in London, Geneva, and other major cities. Tiffany's international expansion was making waves, and the world was taking notice. One of the keys to Tiffany & Co's success in Europe was its commitment to exceptional craftsmanship. While Europe had long been known for its fine jewelry, Tiffany's designs stood out for their innovative approach to gemstones and settings. Tiffany was known for using the finest diamonds, the most precious gemstones, and the most intricate designs. This focus on quality helped Tiffany & Company build a reputation as a brand that was not only equal to, but superior to, its European competitors. Tiffany's European expansion also helped solidify its association with the elite. In the 19th century, owning Tiffany & Company jewelry wasn't just about having something beautiful. It was about making a statement. Tiffany's pieces were rare, elegant, and sought after by royalty, aristocrats, and the ultra-wealthy. The brand's growing reputation in Europe helped it become synonymous with the highest quality in the world of jewelry. And Charles didn't just expand internationally for the sake of growth, he did it to challenge perceptions. He was determined to prove that American-made luxury could rival Europe's finest. By opening stores in the most prestigious cities in Europe, Tiffany & Company showed that it was more than just an American brand, it was a global symbol of refinement. But Tiffany's success wasn't just about opening international stores. Charles knew that to truly be a global leader in the luxury market, Tiffany & Company needed to be at the center of cultural conversations. That meant getting involved with the elite and associating the brand with prestige. Tiffany and Company began to cater to a select clientele, designing custom pieces for wealthy families and royalty. The brand's reputation grew as it became a symbol of status and taste. The 19th century was a period of transformation for Tiffany and Company. With its international expansion, Tiffany became a household name among the world's elite. Charles had taken a bold risk by expanding into Europe, but that risk paid off. Tiffany and Company wasn't just a jewelry store. It was a global luxury brand, recognized not only for its exceptional jewelry but also for its innovation, elegance, and commitment to excellence. Chapter 8. Hollywood Glamour and Breakfast at Tiffany's, 1961. All right, folks, hold on to your hats because we're about to take a sharp turn into the world of Hollywood glamour. By now, you've probably heard of Tiffany and Company, but what you might not know is just how much the silver screen had a hand in turning Tiffany into a global icon of luxury. And in the early 1960s, one movie in particular turned Tiffany and Company into the ultimate symbol of elegance, making its way into pop culture in a way that only Hollywood could pull off. In 1961, Tiffany and Company hit the big time, not just in the world of jewelry, but in cinema, thanks to the release of the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's, starring none other than the Queen of Hollywood glamour, Audrey Hepburn. Now, I know what you're thinking. Breakfast at Tiffany's is a classic, but what you might not realize is that this wasn't just a film. It was a cultural reset, and Tiffany and Company became its iconic backdrop. Now, we all know Audrey Hepburn as the embodiment of grace, style, and sophistication, right? But this film catapulted Tiffany and Company into the global spotlight like never before. Picture this: Audrey Hepburn in her sleek black dress, stepping into the Tiffany and Company flagship store on Fifth Avenue, just standing there staring at the jewels, holding a croissant in one hand and a coffee in the other. In that one scene, Tiffany and Company was transformed from a luxury retailer into the ultimate symbol of glamour, wealth, and high society. Before Breakfast at Tiffany's, Tiffany and Company was already a household name among the elite. It was a brand beloved by royalty, celebrities, and the American rich. But after Audrey Hepburn's portrayal of Holly Golightly, the Tiffany brand took on a new cultural significance. Tiffany and Company was now not just about luxury jewelry. It was about being part of something rare, something glamorous, something that was bigger than just a store. It was about romance, style, and the idea that owning a piece of Tiffany jewelry was like owning a piece of Hollywood history. Let's not forget Audrey Hepburn's character in the movie, Holly Golightly, was no typical woman. She wasn't just a socialite, she was a symbol of freedom and independence, and Tiffany and Company was right there, serving as a representation of the elite world she both inhabited and yearned to belong to. The famous scene with Audrey Hepburn with the Tiffany store as her backdrop didn't just show the jewels, it showed aspiration. It showed the dream of luxury and style that was just beyond reach for many, but oh so desirable. Tiffany and Company became a myth in the American consciousness, a symbol of something beautiful, unattainable, and sophisticated. But here's the kicker. The relationship between Tiffany and Company and Breakfast at Tiffany's wasn't just a flash in the pan. The movie solidified the brand as part of the American dream. Think about it. People were lining up at Tiffany's after the movie's release, wanting to be part of the world they saw on screen. They wanted to own that blue box, that shiny, perfect diamond, and live out their own version of that Hollywood fantasy. Tiffany and Company wasn't just a luxury brand anymore. It was a cultural phenomenon, but the story doesn't end with the movie. Audrey Hepburn's portrayal of Holly Golightly wasn't just about adding a bit of glitz to the brand. It marked the beginning of Tiffany and Co's long-standing relationship with Hollywood glamour. Over the next several decades, Tiffany and Company continued to make appearances in movies, fashion shows, and red carpet events. The brand became synonymous with the ultimate in high society, a cornerstone of luxury that was only accessible to the elite but dreamed about by everyone. And let's talk about the Tiffany blue box for a second. You know, that little box that's as iconic as the jewelry inside it. After Breakfast at Tiffany's, the Tiffany blue box became synonymous with luxury and exclusivity. It wasn't just about what was inside. It was about the experience of receiving something from Tiffany. It was about the anticipation, the excitement, and the feeling of owning a piece of true luxury. But here's the secret that a lot of people don't realize. Tiffany and Company didn't just sell jewelry, they sold dreams. They sold the idea of being part of something bigger than yourself. The movie Breakfast at Tiffany's helped solidify that idea for the world, and now Tiffany and Company wasn't just a jeweler. It was a cultural icon. The impact of breakfast at Tiffany's wasn't just about how it changed the brand's image, it also brought new customers into Tiffany's stores. People who had never considered purchasing fine jewelry suddenly found themselves at Tiffany's, not just looking for an engagement ring, but dreaming about becoming part of that world. The Tiffany brand was now not only about luxury, it was about a lifestyle. Chapter 9. Modern Innovations and Challenges, Late 20th Century. By the time the 1980s and 1990s rolled around, Tiffany & Company had already solidified itself as a luxury brand of unparalleled status, thanks to a legacy that stretched all the way back to Charles Lewis Tiffany's vision of fine craftsmanship and innovation. But as the world changed, so did the jewelry market. New competitors, global trade, and shifts in consumer tastes started presenting new challenges and opportunities. For Tiffany & Company, Charles Tiffany might have passed away in 1902, but the brand still carried his legacy forward. And now it was time for the company to adapt to an ever-changing world. The 1980s were a time of growth and expansion for Tiffany. The company had built a reputation for high-quality luxury jewelry, but it wasn't the only name in the game anymore. The luxury market was now flooded with new players, and to stay at the top, Tiffany needed to evolve. This was no longer the era of diamonds as the only signifier of wealth and status. People were starting to look for something different, something unique, something that reflected individuality rather than just traditional luxury. It wasn't just about having the biggest diamond anymore. It was about the experience and the story behind the jewelry. Tiffany's response to this shift was to focus on innovation and modern design. The brand began collaborating with top designers to create new collections that reflected the changing tastes of the time. While Tiffany's classic designs, like the Tiffany setting, would always be a staple, the brand knew it needed to offer something fresh for a new generation. In the late 1980s, Tiffany introduced some incredibly bold collections that mixed modern aesthetics with Tiffany's heritage of fine craftsmanship. One of the most significant innovations was the Tiffany Atlas collection. Inspired by Roman numerals, the collection was sleek, minimalistic and modern, featuring watches, rings and necklaces. This collection brought a sense of edgy sophistication to Tiffany, appealing to younger, more fashion-forward customers. It wasn't just about selling jewelry. It was about creating a lifestyle that spoke to individualism and style while still maintaining that Tiffany quality. But as Tiffany & Company adapted to changing trends, it wasn't all smooth sailing. The 1990s brought with them a new wave of competition in the luxury market. While Tiffany had established itself as the gold standard, the rise of global jewelers and the emergence of other high-end brands meant Tiffany had to work even harder to stay relevant. The brand had to differentiate itself, and that meant doing something that no one else had done quite like Tiffany. So Tiffany responded in a truly innovative way. It began focusing on collaborations with celebrated artists and designers. One of the most notable collaborations was with Paloma Picasso, the famous designer and daughter of Pablo Picasso. Her collections for Tiffany were bold, avant-garde, and completely different from anything else Tiffany had done. Her designs were a direct departure from the classic Tiffany pieces, with unconventional shapes and vibrant colors. This wasn't just a jewelry collection, it was an opportunity for Tiffany to capture the attention of the art world and younger customers who appreciated design that was more daring and less traditional. Another significant move was the hiring of designer Elsa Peretti in the early 1970s, who went on to revolutionize the brand with her organic and sensual designs. Peretti's pieces, including the bone cuff and open heart necklace, became symbols of modern luxury, blending elegance with simplicity. Her designs spoke to a younger audience, appealing to people who weren't necessarily interested in the more traditional, heavy jewelry of the past. She helped bring minimalism to Tiffany, while still staying true to the brand's reputation for quality and luxury. As the late 20th century progressed, Tiffany continued to expand its global presence. In 1999, the company launched its flagship store on Fifth Avenue in New York City, a symbolic location for a company that had made its name in New York. The store became a must-visit destination for tourists, fashion enthusiasts, and anyone looking to experience the magic of Tiffany. By this point, Tiffany was no longer just about jewelry. It was about experiencing luxury, status, and a lifestyle that felt timeless and unforgettable. But while Tiffany was expanding, the company faced new challenges. The luxury market was changing rapidly, and Tiffany was no longer the only brand vying for the top spot. Competitors like Cartier, Van Cleef and Arpels, and newer brands like Chopard were nipping at Tiffany's heels, each with their own vision of luxury. Tiffany had to fight for its place at the top, and that meant staying innovative while still maintaining its heritage of craftsmanship. Tiffany and Company was also beginning to focus on sustainability. As environmental concerns became more pressing in the 1990s and early 2000s, Tiffany took steps to improve its ethical sourcing practices. The company's commitment to responsible sourcing of materials, including diamonds and precious metals, helped it stand out as a leader in the luxury market that didn't just care about style, it also cared about ethics. Tiffany's push for sustainability, including the use of conflict-free diamonds, set the standard for other jewelers to follow. Chapter 10. Tiffany and Company Today, A Legacy Continues, 21st Century. All right, we've covered a lot of ground, from Charles Lewis Tiffany's humble beginnings to Tiffany & Co.'s rise as a global luxury icon, and we've seen how the brand adapted to modern trends and challenges. But where does Tiffany stand today? Well, hold on to your blue boxes, because Tiffany & Company is still leading the way in the world of luxury jewelry, but now it's doing so with a keen eye on the future. In the 21st century, Tiffany & Company has had to evolve to stay relevant while maintaining its heritage of excellence. The jewelry world has changed a lot since the days of Charles Tiffany. Today's customers are more aware of sustainability, ethics, and the story behind the brand than ever before. The days of flashy advertisements and exclusive stores were no longer enough. Tiffany had to tap into the values of a modern, more socially conscious world, and it did so in a way that still honored the principles that made it iconic in the first place. One of the most significant changes Tiffany & Company has embraced is its focus on sustainability and ethical sourcing. Let's face it, when you're dealing with high-value materials like diamonds and precious metals, you're going to face questions about where those materials come from and how they're obtained. In the early 2000s, Tiffany & Company made a bold commitment to only use conflict-free diamonds and to source responsibly. Tiffany also became the first major jeweler to offer diamonds certified by the Responsible Jewelry Council, ensuring that the stones were obtained ethically. But Tiffany didn't stop there. The company's commitment to sustainability goes far beyond diamonds. They've made efforts to reduce their carbon footprint, focus on responsible mining practices, and use recycled materials in their products. In 2019, Tiffany unveiled its sustainability report, which detailed how the company is working toward a more sustainable future. This wasn't just about keeping up with the times. It was about staying ahead and positioning Tiffany as a leader in luxury brands that care about the planet and people. But it's not just about what Tiffany & Company does, it's also about who Tiffany has become. In 2021, Tiffany & Company made headlines when it was acquired by LVMH, the French luxury giant, behind brands like Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, and Fendi. Now, you might be wondering, what does this mean for Tiffany? Well, the LVMH acquisition wasn't just about buying a brand. It was about giving Tiffany & Company the tools to thrive in the global luxury market. Under LVMH's ownership, Tiffany has the opportunity to expand further into international markets, leverage LVMH's retail expertise, and enhance its digital presence. With LVMH behind it, Tiffany & Company has also shifted its marketing strategy to focus on new audiences. The brand is no longer just appealing to the traditional elite. Tiffany is now actively targeting younger, more diverse customers who care about style, sustainability, and values. In 2020, Tiffany launched its Believe in Dreams campaign, which aimed to tap into a new generation that sees jewelry as more than just a purchase, but as an expression of who they are. This shift has helped Tiffany & Company stay relevant in a world where consumer tastes are constantly evolving. But it's not just about marketing, it's also about innovation in design. Tiffany & Company continues to push the envelope with new collections that combine the brand's iconic style with modern trends. One such example is the Tiffany Tea collection, which blends the classic Tiffany design language with a bold, minimalist approach, offering pieces that are both wearable and chic. This collection speaks to a younger demographic who want timeless style with a modern twist. And let's not forget about the Tiffany blue box, which continues to be synonymous with luxury. Tiffany has maintained its brand's allure through its signature packaging, making sure that the experience of receiving a Tiffany gift is just as special as the piece of jewelry itself. The iconic blue box has become almost as desirable as the jewelry inside. It's a status symbol, a symbol of elegance and class. What's even more impressive is Tiffany Co's ability to maintain its legacy of craftsmanship while embracing the future. While new collections keep the brand fresh, Tiffany's artisans still create pieces that represent the highest standards of quality, much like they did in the days of Charles Tiffany. Whether it's a custom engagement ring or a piece of fine jewelry, Tiffany continues to be known for its exceptional craftsmanship. So where is Tiffany Company headed in the future? Well, the company is doubling down on innovation, sustainability and design. Whether it's through embracing new technologies like 3D printing to create prototypes or developing innovative diamond cutting techniques, Tiffany is making sure that it remains at the cutting edge of the luxury jewelry industry. And let's not forget Tiffany's retail evolution. The company is working on creating immersive retail experiences that blend the online and in-store shopping worlds. It's not just about buying a product anymore. It's about experiencing Tiffany & Company in a way that feels fresh, relevant, and connected to the modern consumer. And there you have it. What started as a small store in New York City has grown into one of the most recognizable luxury brands in the world. From the humble beginnings of Charles Lewis Tiffany in Nantucket to the global luxury empire, Tiffany & Company has become today. The brand's journey has been nothing short of incredible. Through bold innovations like the Tiffany Yellow Diamond, the Tiffany setting, and the creation of America's first luxury catalog, Tiffany didn't just keep up with the times, it shaped them. From the iconic blue box that symbolizes elegance and luxury to its deep commitment to sustainability in the 21st century, Tiffany & Company has continually adapted to the world around it while staying true to its heritage of excellence. Whether it's through Hollywood glamour, international expansion, or its focus on ethical sourcing, Tiffany & Company has shown that its legacy is about more than just beautiful jewelry. It's about creating pieces that are timeless, sustainable, and iconic. And the best part, Tiffany & Co's story is still being written. With a future that's focused on innovation, sustainability, and luxury, the brand is set to shine even brighter in the years to come. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the story of Tiffany & Company, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss out on more fascinating history stories and the evolution of legendary brands. Also, I'd love to hear from you. What's your favorite Tiffany moment? Maybe you've visited one of their stores or you own a piece of Tiffany jewelry. Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the history of Tiffany & Company. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, some brands are more than just a name. They're a symbol of legacy, innovation, and style. Catch you in the next video.